I'm here with Jack Wetherill, Senior Marketing Analyst for Home Electronics at FutureSource Consulting. And Jack, your presentation at the conference had to do with the entire ecosystem of UHD, of really television production. You had a great graphic on the screen of four sort of puzzle pieces coming together. What are those four parts and how do they interrelate?
Yeah, thanks, Scott. Well, the four puzzle pieces are really the key factors that need to fall into place in order to make sure that UHD content is available and enjoyed by the mass market, if you like. And so that involves having TV sets that are affordable, having content that exists, and you need some kind of infrastructure to get the content to the screen. And then finally, you need consumer acceptance. So those are the kind of, if you like, four key areas that if there's any piece of the jigsaw that doesn't quite fit, then you're going to have some kind of disconnect, if you like, in the whole sort of camera to screen Ultra HD ecosystem. Yeah.
It seems to me that the display, the TV part of that puzzle, has come out in front, if you will, over the other three. And whether or not that's a good thing, we could debate, but how are the other three pieces catching up?
Well, absolutely. That was probably the one key message from the presentation, that the TV sets are being rolled out rapidly, more rapidly than anybody would have thought. They're going to be in more homes than had previously been anticipated by anybody, and that means more eyeballs who that could be watching 4K content. And therefore, we've got the consumer acceptance, we've got the TVs out there. There's another couple of pieces of the jigsaw. That's the content creation and the content distribution to those sets, and that's where there is a shortfall at the moment. It's difficult. I mean, the broadcasters, the pay TV companies, they invested a lot in HD. They invested a lot in 3D, and they didn't get their money back for 3D, certainly not yet a while. And so therefore, now that 4K has come along, they're looking a little bit cautiously, weighing up the options. Is this really something to go for? And meanwhile, the sets are rolling out, and perhaps that will persuade them that really it is something that is worth going for. We know that Netflix, of course, is making a lot of noise about this, but they haven't got all the content in the world. It needs a lot more to bring to the party to make that piece of the jigsaw fit into place.
Yeah, I heard somebody say at the conference that you can only watch House of Cards so many times before you want something new.
Yeah, and that'll be Breaking Bad, and then no, you're absolutely right. The movies, of course, is a big area, but we've seen this with HD. We shouldn't be that surprised that TV sets are going to be seeded into the market well in advance of the content. That was absolutely the case with HD, and we just have to, I'm sure that when it comes to it, that people will ultimately be able to get HD content to the set more easily, but it's going to take more years than the rolling out of the sets themselves. As I say, the actual business of capturing content in 4K and distributing it is far more complex in some ways than just making a TV and selling it. That's just the nature of things.
How do the elements of high dynamic range, wide color gamut, and so on factor into the content creation side? It seems to me that the content creation side needs to catch up in that regard pretty significantly, and at the moment the TVs can't even display that, so there's some work yet to be done, it seems to me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a technical guy, but I've sat in on conferences where technical guys have been talking this through, and yeah, you've got to make sure you've got the equipment that can capture this. They've got to be able to edit that and make sure that it fits a standard. There's also frame rates. There are a lot of issues that they're really scratching their heads about to see. Can this be done? If so, how and to what standards should be applied? That's a really big area. But for the consumer, thinking about them, it's have they got a 4K set? Did they have an HD set? These are easy things to explain to them, and they will buy the sets, and these, if you like, subtleties, relative subtleties, will follow. And in the longer term, of course, the benefits of these things, such as high dynamic range, will be felt. But that's not something which is a short-term win. That's going to take longer.
Was it you who had the chicken and egg slide, or
that was Sean Dubravac of CEA? But yeah, absolutely, there is a kind of chicken and egg. If we have to have that analogy here, we've certainly got one is way ahead of the other. The TV, the 4K TV, is kind of pretty well ahead of the content side.
HD's been around for about 10 years, roughly, give or take, and it took a few years, as you say, for it to get fully realized. In the HD space, am I correct in remembering that broadcast was one of the first delivery mechanisms?
That stretches before my memory, to be honest with you. But there was broadcast. You're absolutely right. But also Blu-ray ultimately was coming in.
Well, yeah, but there was a whole big format war for a long time between Blu-ray and HD DVD, so that felt very unsettled. As content delivery today feels somewhat unsettled, although, pardon me, it seems that over-the-top or online delivery is probably the first way that a lot of UHD content is going to get delivered.
No, you're absolutely right. That's a kind of dynamic that wasn't available, back in 2004 or whatever. So what was there, as you say, quite rightly remind us, there was a format war. There was no internet infrastructure to support such streaming. So what was left? Broadcast.
Broadcast, exactly. Have you looked at all at 4K physical disc formats? Is what's going on with that?
Yeah, well, that's down to the Blu-ray Disc Association, and they are working, I know, to create standard a spec which they can run with. That happened very quickly with 3D, if you remember. It hasn't happened so quickly with 4K. Their plan is to have a spec ready for licensing next calendar year, with the idea that could lead to product being available by the end of 2015. But it's a fast-moving world, and meanwhile, Netflix is strutting its way across the stage, and packaged media generally is in decline, as we know. It may have quality, but the convenience isn't necessarily there, the immediacy, and so the uptake of 4K Blu-ray discs and the players, it will be there, but it's somewhat further down the line than anybody would like, I would say.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for talking with us.
My pleasure. Thanks a lot.